Hello there gamers and gamettes, my name is Lorne Riseley, host of Defunct Games News, where we bring you the good, the great, and the gooberific of all gaming news every single week. And coming up this week... well, this sucks, as Hardsuit Labs has kicked off development of Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. Just look at the state of it, as the PlayStation 5 has yet another showcase. And other highlights to come include us asking, is this a potential threat to the big three in this generation of consoles? Stay tuned to find out. So it turns out those tickets from BlizzCon last year weren't redeemable for this year's conference, huh? Okay. Seems a bit harsh to deduct it from my pay though, wouldn't you agree? Especially considering the addition of Cyril's new gold-plated office. Anywho, on to our first story this week, as Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2's development hit a bit of a snag this week. Well, less of a snag, more of a nuclear bomb. It was announced that not only has the game been delayed past 2021, but that Seattle-based developers of the game, Hardsuit Labs, have been removed from the project after spending a significant amount of time getting the game to originally launch in Q1 of 2020, but was later postponed to later in the year before being officially delayed into 2021 in August of 2020, which many might assume was due to COVID. But this is a case of a developer being pulled from a game that they've worked on from start to almost completion, which is an astounding turn of events. Damn! Paradox dropped Hardsuit harder than EA dropped Anthem. They believed in Anthem, they said. Yeah, about the same way I believe in the Tooth Fairy these days, it seems. Anyway, as part of the earnings report, Paradox issued a statement on the release. We have now chosen to postpone the release of Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 further, and we will not be launching the game in 2021. We've also decided that Hardsuit Labs will no longer be leading the development of Bloodlines 2, and we've started a collaboration with a new studio partner to finish work on the game. This has been a difficult decision, but we're convinced that it's the right way forward to do the game justice. Which would insinuate that Hardsuit Labs were doing something that doesn't do the game justice. I mean, I've seen the demo and the trailers and it looks totally goth to me. Like I can feel it sapping my soul, being enveloped in the darkness and drowning my humanity. It's uber hardcore goth. And I certainly don't see any sparkly Batman cosplaying motherfucker in the trailer. Hashtag not my Batman. A second statement on the game's website went into further detail, saying since we cannot at this time communicate a new release date, we've also decided to stop accepting pre-orders for the time being. Ah, that's nice of them. Stop accepting a game that's taken 17 years to get to a point where you indefinitely delay it. Mother Teresa, you keep a hold of that beer, you. They went on to say, we'd like to take this opportunity to honour Hardsuit Labs for their efforts and thank them for their hard work on the project. The studio has done a tremendous job in laying the foundations for the game, and we hope that you, the community, will also appreciate their contribution to Bloodlines 2. But this isn't to say that the developer is innocent in this, considering that development of the game has seen its fair share of delays and incidents in the past. In August of 2020, the game's narrative lead and creative director were dropped from the project unexpectedly, and then one of the game's key narrative designers, Kara Ellison, who helped write the original game, departed the project in October of 2020. Hardsuit then hired BioWare veteran Samantha Walschlager as lead narrative designer a week later. Not a good omen for a game in hindsight, but a potential contributing factor to this announcement, one might speculate. And for those of you unaware, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines was a 2004 action role-playing video game developed by Troika Games and published by Activision for Microsoft Windows. Set in White Wolf Publishing's World of Darkness, and was based on White Wolf's role-playing game Vampire the Masquerade, which followed a human who is killed and revived as a fledgling vampire. The sequel was set to cast the player as another fledgling thin-blood vampire with relatively weak abilities, who was turned as part of a masquerade violating mass embrace of humans, using Seattle as its setting. Sounds so uber goth. Hardsuit Labs may have cause to feel hard done by, but surprisingly have yet to issue any statement concerning the events. But considering that the official trailer for the game was released 9 months ago, and the original gameplay demo was released well over a year ago at this point, just what went wrong here? The demo looked great, albeit tempered with the expectation that it's going to look a little better than it may have ended up looking. Sick dance moves there, bro. Just what went wrong, or just how badly were they screwing up behind the scenes for the publisher to pull the plug like this? Only time will tell if we ever hear the full story. And speaking of potential train wrecks hiding behind carefully planned marketing material.
What now, Cyberpunk?
The sound of abject annoyance. That can only mean that it's time for this week's edition of What Now, Cyberpunk? So to recap quickly, on the 9th of February, CD Projekt Red awoke to a notepad note advising them that they'd been the victim of a malware attack that had claimed a sizable number of sensitive documents, personal files, game source code, and other information. They left a notepad demand, people. A notepad demand! How sophisticated was the password security in CD Projekt Red? Was it just the enter key? Then, on the 11th of February, it was reported on Verge that hackers had sold the game's source code and other information stolen from CD Projekt Red, who, if you didn't know by now, made Cyberpunk 2077 and the infinitely more popular and stable Witcher 3. CDPR pledged that they would not give in to the hackers' demands and they would fight to the bitter end, no matter if the data got disseminated. The blithering idiots. But in CDPR's defense, the hackers didn't leave a demand. You know, you gotta have a figure to negotiate down from, you know, and they didn't have that. I mean, like, you know, even if the lack of this data or the dissemination of this data could mean the downfall of your company going up in smoke like a fake Xbox Series X video. Cybersecurity firm Keeler released screenshots of a post from the hacking forum Exploit, allegedly posted by the attackers, saying that they'd received an offer for the data from outside the forum. Keeler previously reported that the starting price for the auction was $1 million with a buy it now price of $7 million, which was verified by VX Underground, who went on to confirm that the auction had closed at the request of the buyer, who allegedly walks away with the source code for a ray-traced version of The Witcher 3, a spin-off called Thronebreaker: The Witcher Tales, Cyberpunk 2077, and copies of the company's internal documents, all of which could have a dizzying value of $4, maybe even up to $4.50 if data protection hasn't been breached. And although the hackers have yet to be named, it was the developers' turn this week to throw down, turn up the heat, get their own back. Sort of. CD Projekt Red is now taking steps to stop the spread of its game's source code, particularly via social media, using DMCA notices to try and stop those sharing the code online. Having seen a number of Twitter accounts sharing the data in the same way, one might have their cat in an odd position. One of the users who received the above notice after posting the naughty content stated that their tweet got taken down as it contained a torrent to download the source code for Gwent. The user also stated that, let's just say it wasn't anything I didn't expect, which we can all agree isn't the most robust defense of your actions. So in summary, let's just wrap things up. CD Projekt Red is fighting the theft of data that could be worth up to $7 million by hiring a social media manager who is currently combing through Twitter, a social media platform with 330 million active accounts, and claiming tweets on an individual basis. Sounds like a winning strategy to me. What happens next for CD Projekt Red and Cyberpunk? I stand by my prediction from last week, but who knows? Maybe they'll start burning Rembrandts to power their servers since they have so much business savvy. I mean, next you'll be telling me they got hacked so bad that they couldn't get into their PCs for 2 weeks. Wait, what? That really happened? And so, we come to the segment where we wrap up what happened on Defunct Games this week, and we take a look at all the delectable, defunct, and there's no way I'm going to memorize this, so bear with me. Delectable, defunct delights of digital dopeness. Say that 5 times quickly. I could barely say it once and I wrote it. Anyway, we start with a review of Taxi Chaos. According to Cyril, Taxi Chaos is the dive bar cover band version of Crazy Taxi. While it knows the songs and hits most of the same notes, it struggles to recreate the greatness of the original. Is Taxi Chaos every bit as disappointing as it is an original? Or is this a Crazy Taxi homage that you've been waiting for? You'll have to tune in to find out. Then we got a review of Void Gore, from the developer that brought you Null Drifter and Red Death. Cyril notes, as both a budget title and a throwback shoot 'em up, Void Gore hits the mark. It's a stylish action game that controls well, has gorgeous pixel graphics, is loaded with otherworldly creatures, and most importantly, is a hell of a lot of fun to play. Collecting coins, buying upgrades, and chasing those high scores will keep you coming back and ensure that you get your money's worth. But the question is, does the game stack up to its older brothers? Or does the game fall short of its lofty expectations? Why not check out the video now and find out for yourself? And of course, we had another quiz this week which finally see Cyril's run of utter dominance threatened by yours truly. So for that reason, and that reason alone, it's worth checking out. But also, why not check it out and play along with us? I can assure you, this week's quiz was a lot of fun. And as you can see, that means that this channel's content is at least as satisfying as seeing Henry Cavill post a social media post about his involvement in that video game franchise you like, or be it 37% less thirsty, I will admit. Although, come on, be honest with yourselves. You would. Now, this week saw the return of the PlayStation State of Play stream, where Sony attempts to try and hype up its adoring fanbase by showing everything that the PS5 is going to offer you in the coming weeks and months. This time, the PlayStation blog post detailing the broadcast seemed to insinuate that it would lean more heavily into new game announcements that we have not seen, and updates on third-party titles and indie games, as opposed to news on games more highly anticipated, such as God of War, Horizon Forbidden West, or Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. Which is disappointing, but hey, if they've got new jams, let's hear them, I say. They also stated that those who go into the stream hoping for more information on this week's announced PlayStation 5 virtual reality headset will be disappointed, as there will be no hardware or business-focused updates during the broadcast. Quote, "The show is clocking in around 30 minutes or so, give or take. Can't wait to hear what you think. And a quick note, there won't be any PlayStation hardware or business-focused updates in the show. We're focusing on great games set to come out in the months ahead." So yeah, no hype titles or hardware announcements. Not the strongest of sells, but hey, I'm an optimist, and I know just the man to get us hyped up for what Sony has to offer. Over to you, Slick Dick Johnson. Dick? Slick Dick here, games fans, and welcome to the State of Play, where we'll be getting a look at 10, count them, 10 titles for release on the PlayStation 5 in a battle between titles we know about and new titles yet to be debuted. Let's dive right in, and we kickstart with a Crash Bandicoot 4 to be exact, releasing on the PlayStation 5 on the 12th of March. It'll feature faster loading times, save transfers, 3D audio support, adaptive triggers, and other DualSense features, and the game will run at 4K plus 60 FPS. To quote my man Crash, whoa! Oh, creeping up next, we have a 3-minute, quote, deep dive into Returnal. You gotta keep your eyes on this one. 1 second it's a slow, methodical thriller, then boom, it's turned into a roguelike third-person shooter. I don't like the look of that house, but the gutsy ceiling is not to be deterred. We'll have to see how this one plays out, Cotton. Bounding in now is Knockout City. Hold the phone, I think Fortnite's gonna sue and settle in V-Bucks. Penned for release on PlayStation 4 on the May 21st for 19 bucks. Oh my god! It's gonna have backwards compatibility enhancements for the PlayStation 5 players. And you can turn yourself into the ball. Good lord, a shoot strategy. But one, I'm sure I'm going to have to try next time I go bowling post-game. Spinning side kicking in sometime in 2021, now we have a new game called Sifu. Making some great moves here. In, out, inside kicks, moves to the outside to finish them with a... Oh no, it all went wrong for the rookie there. Oh, however, that was all part of his plan, as the game literally turns the student into the master, as each time the player character dies, they're revived, slightly older, and more skilled. Boom! We've got ourselves another new game here, people, and it's Solar Ash out of nowhere! Scale, speed, slickness aren't just words to describe your boy Slick Dick Johnson, folks. This game has it all. Solar Ash is coming to PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, and PC sometime in 2021. It's got platforming, combat, and so much pinkness. Freddy bar the door, ladies and gentlemen. It's only 5 nights at Freddy's security breach. CD Projekt Red suing them for copyright infringement, I assume. Lawsuits for everyone here. Thrills, spills, animatronics, and ergonomics. The first person jump to consoles in what is now 3 games after what was supposedly the final chapter. Clear signs that the franchise has taken too many installments to the code, it seems. Oh my Abes, it's Oddworld Soulstorm, folks. The veteran making the comeback April 6th at 24 years old. Call him Tom Abe-D. Keeping it 2.5D with over 1,000 NPCs to rescue and employ, Abe has got it all to do here, folks. But with scavenging and crafting adding to the mix, there's no doubt that he is ready, willing, and able. Not to be upstaged, the newbies fire back with Kena, Bridge of Spirits, which makes a cross-field release at the 24th of August with both a standard edition for $39.99 and a deluxe edition for $49.99, which additionally includes the game's soundtrack, an in-game silver staff, and golden rot skin exclusives. Having been delayed due to COVID, that time on the sidelines is bound to give this rookie all the motivation she needs to hit the ground running. Gadoosh! It's Deathloop, the quirky shooter with a playstyle all of its own, opening with a Bond-style track, all nice, flanking in with, yeah, it's definitely a Bioshock power bass. Oh, leading with a Dishonored teleport through the middle and firing a We Happy Few right into the art style to seal the deal. The game's focus on a death as a mechanic and the promise of other players hunting you in a sea of NPCs. Whew, makes this rookie one to watch in the future. Wrapping us up here, we have the big one, ladies and gentlemen, Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate, the wily veteran leading with the story, playing it out wide, side-by-side graphics comparison, then finishing it off with a quick drop of the upgrade deal and slotting it home with a beautiful new story episode. Lovely moves there from Final Fantasy. Well, that'll about do it from us here in the State of Play Dome. The final score, new games with promise 5, frivolous lawsuits 5 as well. A dead heat here. Back to you in the studio, Lorne. Dearie me, man, he earned his money there. News thinner than the security at CD Projekt Red. Yikes. Oh, yeah. Thanks very much, Slick Dick. We want to hear what you think. The state of play. Some people were disappointed, some people were happy with it, some people with the Final Fantasy and other games that were announced. What do you think? Has anything there got you hyped? Is there anything they didn't talk about that you want to see them talk about more? Leave us your thoughts in the comments section below. And now we've seen a company with at least some semblance of how to handle its hardware and marketing, let's take a look at the opposite as we roll in our next recurring segment, Doomsday Clock, where we look at the merciful demise of Google's Stadia at the hands of its overlord. And this week, with Cyberpunk setting the bar nice and high in terms of fuck-ups, it was Google's turn to respond. But how can they upend CD Projekt Red's grip on the fuckopoly? Well, two things, my dear friends, a lawsuit and a developer issue, of course. First to the lawsuit, against Google Stadia's marketing over whether or not Stadia can run games at 4K resolution. The reason for this, the suit alleges, is that Google, Bungie and id Software misrepresented the capabilities of Stadia by claiming that games like Destiny 2 and Doom Eternal could hit 4K resolution at 60 frames per second, which, surprise, surprise, was not playable in true 4K, and that as a result, quote, anyone who purchased the Google Stadia Founders Edition, the Google Stadia Premier Edition, or a monthly Google Stadia Pro subscription did so with the intent of playing games at true 4K resolution rather than playing upscaled versions of said games. The suit was initially filed with the Supreme Court of New York all the way back in October of 2020 and has recently seen a motion to dismiss the suit due to its limited and presumptive nature. Unfortunately, most civil suits take forever to conclude, and with the vast majority of classes settling either as a class action or on an individual basis, either way, one might assume that money spent on billable hours here may have been better invested in dev time for the 4K claim, or at least slightly more astute advertising agencies. But that's not all, folks, because as a direct result of a bunch of people losing their jobs through no fault of their own, current Stadia developers can't fix bugs in their own game, Journey to the Savage Planet, because Google fired the dev team responsible for it. Typhon Studios were the first studio acquired by Google, and indeed one of the developers most recently fired by Google, which means that there is now no one who can fix their game. This was brought to light on Reddit by user Lord Ubuntu, and later when a user who was unable to play Journey in single or co-op contacted the game's publisher, 505 Games. Stadia's social team said it would work with the publisher on a fix. The publisher then dropped them in the proverbial by saying, actually, we can't fix this for you at all. Fortunately, there's nothing we can do from our end right now since all of the game code and data on Stadia is owned by Google, with one user going on to describe the situation, and I quote, a complete show. And I am not one to argue, given there is no timeline to fix this issue and no telling what other games might have been affected by similar sets of circumstances. So to recap, Google fired 150 employees of its internal Stadia studio, but it's still promising that more than 100 third-party titles will still arrive on the service this year, all while fighting a lawsuit against its false marketing and appears to be unable to guarantee support to the games it already has. Less than ideal, but hey, it's not like it can get any worse, right? Well, for now, Stadia lives to fight another day, but one wonders how long this can go on for, with only two things certain for the Stadia: death and YouTube adverts every other 5 seconds. And finally, we wrap up the week by taking a look at a few stories that might tickle your pickle and give you a giggle, since someone liked that line last week. I liked it too, just so you know. So let's take a look, shall we? Remember Soulja Boy? Nah, me neither. But he was famous over a decade ago for basic, uninspired, repetitive lyrics, I hear. And he's now teased that he's releasing a follow-up to his basic, repetitive, and uninspired console. The unabashed failure that was the Soulja game. And we're here to show you what it looks like. According to a Twitter account, simply called Soulja Game Console, which by the by is followed by Soulja Boy as a method of authentication, The rapper is, quote, building a new console from scratch, all new design, all new games, all new deals. Let's make history, quote. This appears to be an extension of his current status as a gaming entrepreneur, giving his attempt at forming an esports organization to compete in all the hot games of the day, and, quote, crank that on all the opposing teams, and of course the obligatory streaming channel that has come to be standard for anyone claiming to be an influencer these days. However, the quality of the project must be viewed through the lens of his previous attempt to break up the console giants, the Soulja game, which some outlets kindly described as derivative, and other outlets, such as the United States Patent Office, deemed an illegal gaming emulator, made of plastic weaker than a hammer made of bubbles, and offering the best quality gaming had to offer in 1998, albeit releasing in 2018, for 1 whole month, before he had to stop selling the things, foreshadowed by a now infamous tweet issued the day before shutting the show. For anyone who thinks that Nintendo is going to sue me, nothing's going to happen. Everything is legit. My console isn't going anywhere. Trust me. For those interested, his Instagram account had 3 images of the upcoming console. And not only does it look similar to a current Xbox in aesthetic, the photos are also accompanied by a controller that looks very similar to the PS2's DualShock 2. Say what you like. Compared to his first console, this seems like progress to me. Yeah, you zoom in on that square. That's a sign of quality, alright. Resilient software engineer Vitor Viella has sought to demonstrate the benefits of the Nintendo's SA-1 enhancement chip. Basically, a souped-up Super Nintendo processor by applying the technology to Race Drivin, looked upon as a lackluster 1992 SNES port of the Atari Games 3D arcade racer that originally ran at a single-digit frame rate on the home console. However, in a video released this week, Viella shows just how powerful the relatively common SA-1 chip could be by comparing footage from the original Race Drivin to a conversion he developed for use with a more powerful co-processor. The upgraded hardware boosts the game from around 4 frames per second to upwards of 30, giving it the appearance of a moving video game, as opposed to a cartoon made in PowerPoint because your school was too poor to afford a PC from this millennium. Unlike recent attempts to add ray tracing to SNES games or even the 3D rendering technology we showed you previously, these improvements don't come from modern technology, but a chip that already existed in cartridges from that era of gaming. A total of 34 SNES games use the SA-1 super accelerator chip, which features much faster clock speeds and RAM, between 1995 and 1997, including classics like Kirby Superstar and Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars. Viella has made it a mission over the past few years, showing the retro gaming world how the SA-1 chip can benefit games that didn't already include it in their cartridges, implementing similarly impressive performance upgrades for a number of games, including Gradius 3, Contra 3, Super R-Type, and others. Best of all, everything you need of Viella's work up until this point to convert the games yourself is available via GitHub, compatible with several SNES emulators as well as real hardware if you can manage to get the hacked code onto the cartridge. And finally this week, we cover a lot of stories here on DGN. Love, despair, Cyril's collection of diamond-encrusted breakfast cereals. But here, for the first time ever, we can cover a story about peace between 2 warring factions that have been going at it for as long as I've been around gaming. But like the status, it's complicated. They can't be completely honest about this relationship yet. Eagle-eyed Twitter user Bogorad222 may have outed the unlikely union between Gears of War studio, the Coalition, and the development of Halo Infinite, when they noted that the LinkedIn page of developer Adam Bodden, who has worked as a level artist at the Coalition for 2 years between August of 2018 and November 2020, mentions work on the upcoming Halo game. As well as listing Gears 5 and Hivebusters DLC as ship titles, Bodden suggests that he worked on the announced title Halo Infinite. And further still, Bodden isn't the only former Coalition developer who says he worked on the next installment of the most sworn of enemies. Hugo Gutierrez Mardes, a VFX artist who worked at the Gears 5 studio from June 2017 to December of 2020, said on LinkedIn that he was working on Halo Infinite, mainly on cinematics and campaign, having previously worked on the Gears campaign. But as far as timing goes, let's put on a collective tinfoil hats and connect some dots here. Gears 5 launched in September of 2019, which would have given any developers not tied with a DLC plenty of time to start on another project. Also note that both Gears of War and Halo are Microsoft-owned science fiction shooters, and developers of one game may have crossover in terms of expertise and application of experience. Don't come at me with the whole first person versus third person sheeple. This allowed the Coalition developers to help out as Microsoft attempted to get Infinite ready for the Xbox Series X release, and therefore confirms a Master Chief / Marcus Phoenix buddy war comedy starring Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan as their respective leads. Okay, I made all that last part up, but still, how you're thinking about it. But hey, it's frankly nice to see two game franchises trying to help each other out. Would have been nice if someone could have done that for Anthem and BioWare. If only EA owned literally millions of other game developers and publishers and people within the industry to maybe rope in and help. That would have been handy, wouldn't it?
You've got nothing! Nothing!
Well, that's been the happenings of the week. My name's been Lorne Riseley, host of Defunct Games News. We certainly hope you enjoyed that video and you feel inclined to like, share and subscribe as always. Be sure to check out the Defunct Games Discord. I'm making a point to be there every day now, so feel free to drop in and say howdy hi. Be sure to keep your eyes peeled for any additional videos coming on Defunct Games this week, and be sure to go and check out Cyril over at Switch Planet. He debuted there recently and he could do with some support over there. Come on, show him some love. In the meantime though, thank you very much as always for watching. Please take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next week.
Hey, thanks for watching this episode of Defunct Games News. If you liked what you saw here, then you'll be happy to know that we'll be back next Sunday with even more news and fun. And here's the question I have for you. What are you most excited about having seen Sony's State of Play? I, for one, love the look of seafood. In other news, Cyril has a big week lined up for you, including reviews and a feature looking at the history of ghosts and goblins. If that sounds good to you, then I strongly recommend that you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Till then.